Welcome back to the Sonny Talk Spurs YouTube channel, and it's that time of the Premier League footballing calendar. It's the North London derby. I am shaking already. The bad omens hanging over North London, and obviously ahead of this one, I'm joined by the guys from the Ball Draw podcast because one of them's an Arsenal fan, one of them's a QPR fan, and might have to aggregate this one, but yeah, it's Luke and Ross. How are you both doing, guys?
All good, mate. All good.
Yeah, all good. I'm ready to be the neutral good here. Set all you guys apart. Keep your distance.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna have to do, Luke. Luke, just if Ross kicks off, just hold him back. Just hold him back.
Put his mic out.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep my head, but it's been I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's been a rough international break for the boys.
Yeah, it has, to be fair. And usually I feel like it's the other way around, but going into this one, it is a bit strange because all the eggs seem to be, all the ducks seem to be lining up for Spurs. But before we go any further, obviously, the guys' link will be in the description down below. They do a podcast. It is fantastic, talking all things football. And also, let me know, guys, in the comments down below, who do you want on these previews? Because, I want to get people on previewing the big games, Newcastle fans, Tottenham fans, whoever. Get their names in the link down below and we'll try and make it happen on the Sonny Talk Spurs YouTube channel. And Ross, you've just alluded to it there. Arsenal's international break. It's not been good. Obviously, Martin Odegaard injured. Calafiori looks injured. Jurrien Timber, to name just a few. Going to this one, how do you sort of size up this injury crisis? Is it really, is the title already going away from Arsenal this season?
And then to sprinkle it on top, no Declan Rice as well. What's that about?
Yes, we'll get onto that as well.
So, yeah, I was going to say the injury crisis situation is not ideal. And it's not like last year where everyone was saying, oh, Arsenal got a bit of a free ride because the people that are getting injured are not first teamers. But to lose Martin Odegaard, he's about as first team as it gets. Like him and Saka, first name on the team sheet every single time. To lose him in a big game like this, him and Rice, that whole midfield is pretty much makeshift because they're the only two recognised starters. And then we always kind of rotate that left eight. But yeah, Rice and Odegaard is a big loss.
It's going to be interesting. I was talking to someone at work and we were sort of ranking Arsenal players in terms of their importance to the team. And Odegaard, although he might not get the numbers that Saka does, is probably the most important player in that team. He's the captain. And then, you probably get Saka in second place and then Saliba third place. And then Declan Rice probably at fourth place. He's the heart of that midfield almost. So to be missing Odegaard and Rice, not ideal. And I think Gabriel played 2 lots of 90 minutes over the international break as well. It's not a great situation going into North London derby for Arsenal at all.
That's what I mean. I was alluding to it there. It's usually Spurs. We've just had the same situation with the likes of a few players being out, but I'll get onto that question as we go down the line. But yeah, especially Martin Odegaard, and you talk about Arsenal when it comes to injuries, and I don't want to say the word lucky, but when you compare to Chelsea, Manchester United, Newcastle, and us last season, and the amount of players, individual injuries that happen, Arsenal have been quite fortunate. I don't want to say fortunate because I feel like your medical staff, they seem to be well trained. They've got rid of the other guy who's gone to Manchester United.
Yeah, he's got him ruined it over there.
That's the thing. So I feel like I don't know if it's just a combination of too much football over the last couple of years or what. It just always seems to add up. You've seen the likes of even Jude Bellingham getting injured. So maybe it's just one of those things. But as you say there, you mentioned Declan Rice, obviously a massive miss after his second yellow against Brighton. First of all, Ross, I'll start with you again. Is it a red? Was it a red?
So we had this debate on the pod last week. I think it's not in the grand scheme of things, but the referees, it's still early in the season. They're putting down a precedent. They were told, all the players were told before the season, any delay in the restart, there will be repercussions. They can't not enforce that this early in the season. So I think Declan Rice was just on the wrong side of some early enforcement.
Yeah, I think it's more the fact that I think it's really harsh. It is incredibly harsh. But if Declan Rice doesn't touch the ball, he doesn't get sent off. He's made that decision.
And he knows it as well.
And yeah, that's why he came out. He wasn't defending it too much. But I think that's the reason why a lot of Arsenal fans are comparing it to when João Pedro booted the ball down the pitch or saying that the ball is moving. They're not saying, oh, he barely touched it, because he did. It's conscious. He's done it. he's put the decision in the referee's hands there. So I don't think you can be too angry about it. But obviously, you can still have your gripes with it because it is harsh, but it's part and parcel of the rule set that the Premier League have laid out. So,
and you must be buzzing about it.
Well, the thing is, like when I saw it happen, I was quite jubilant. And taking my Tottenham hat off, my opinion of it was that I think it's a red card because I've seen those situations where he is trying to be cheeky and sneaky, and it is a second yellow in the grand scheme of things. But my gripe probably with it is you then should be booking João Pedro for the similar situation. I remember, and you probably remember as well as an Arsenal fan, Ross, when Van Persie, was it in a Champions League game, kicked the ball away, but he apparently couldn't hear the whistle.
Yeah.
Apparently, like that feels like it's similar. So, because even if, like, part of me thinks, is the João Pedro situation even similar? Because he's like, is he time wasting at that stage of the game, or is even Rice? It's hard to know because we don't know whether they're time wasting. He's just, players. I've seen players instinctively just knocking balls away, like, for a quick free kick or anything like that. Yeah. But it seems like Arsenal are always on the end of these sort of new refereeing rules, like when Martinelli was sent off after two consecutive yellows, and we've never seen that since. So it is one of those things where you just know if it happened against you, it would be annoying. But that as we say, like Rice, Odegaard, Calafiori, Timber, it's just not really, the midfield like construct is going to look really strange for Arsenal. So I do think that would be my next question and I'll probably go to you, Luke, to start as the neutral. How do you sort of see Arsenal lining up in that midfield with two key players missing?
I think Partey, Jorginho is on the cards. Obviously, no Marino because he got clattered by Gabriel. He's going to be out for a bit.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And it'd be interesting. Maybe you drop Havertz down, but then who do you play up top? Play your Havertz in the 8? I don't really know. Or potentially maybe you play Zinchenko in the left 8. It's going to be a little bit all over the place. Maybe he adapts the system. Maybe you play with just two holding midfielders and you play a little bit more free flowing up top. I actually have no idea. It's going to be really interesting. But I think it's times like this where Arteta has shown he's been so good with plan A and managing players, managing their minutes, sort of building depth throughout the team, that when situations like this arise, he tends to get it right quite often. When Arsenal lost Saliba, they had no depth. So what did he do? He went out and bought more centre-backs. He bought cover. He's bought players that can play multiple positions. Timber can play left-back, centre-back. You've got Calafiori now can play left-back, centre-back. So all these players can play so many positions. So I think they're flexible in terms of that. It's not going to be ideal going into the game. And I think maybe the point where they were 100% going to be able to dominate Spurs is probably in the midfield. The Arsenal midfield of Rice, Odegaard, and if it's Partey, for me, it's head and shoulders above that Spurs midfield. It just is. But now maybe it does give Spurs a little bit more breathing room in the middle of the pitch. Maybe they're not going to be pressed so hard if it's Jorginho sitting there because he just doesn't have the legs. But it doesn't frighten me so much for Arsenal because we saw him bring the likes of Jorginho in against Man City last season when, and he dictates the tempo of the game. And if Arsenal can dictate the tempo of the game, they will have the control. And we know they're going to create chances. Their forward line is phenomenal. Their defensive line is phenomenal, regardless of who's at that left-back role. So for me, I wouldn't be too scared about sort of the rigidity of it. It's going to be very solid and they're going to have control. But it's just whether or not they can sort of break that Ange ball press as efficiently.
Well, you saw in the North London derby last year, Jorginho came on when Rice got injured. Jorginho immediately leading to a goal. So I do agree. I think Jorginho isn't I wouldn't hate to see him start, but I think I am a little bit worried about his legs. He hasn't played so far this season. So there is that kind of dropping someone into such a big game is always a bit risky. But like you said, I don't know, there's options, but we've never had a situation where the options are to replace Rice and Odegaard. The options have always been to replace that left 8. Is it Zinchenko? Is it Havertz as a left 8? Is it Trossard as a left 8? That's always been the position that's been played with. Is it Declan Rice in that left 8 and Partey starts deeper? But now it's a situation where we haven't got a left 8 and we haven't got a 6 or a 10. So I'm a little bit worried about the midfield, not
And
gonna lie.
you're already ruining the decision to let Emil Smith Rowe go. Who could have, who could have sit right in where Odegaard was.
Potentially. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a situation where Partey definitely starts. I think Jorginho probably comes in. And then, like Luke said, I think you do drop Havertz back and we play quite like an aggressive front three of like Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, or maybe even Sterling starts up top.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe you have quite a fluid front three where you maybe have Sterling as that most forward central player because he's going to break lines. And we've seen time and time again with Spurs. They press so high that sometimes the defensive line is literally sat on the halfway line. Someone like Sterling is one of the best of all time at breaking lines. Maybe this could be his big introduction.
Yeah, so that's what worries me when it comes to Spurs as well, because people say about Spurs' defence are weak. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's our midfield can get bypassed. Like when our midfield is on top point, like what we saw against Everton, when Bissouma is actually ticking over, doing well in his defensive duties and finding forward passes, we're all right. But if Arsenal had that strong midfield, that's when we get worried, because I think now with the likes of, with no destroyer like a Declan Rice or someone like that, or Odegaard Fredin, it sort of will give the likes of, if we start with a Sarr, Maddison, Basuma midfield, a bit more freedom, especially at home as well, to sort of dictate the ball. But moving on from that, a bit of a strange situation, this, and I hate it. And it's a proper weird, I don't even know where to start with it. But obviously the big news leading into this game is the kit change. Arsenal are set to be wearing their away kit, which I'm not really a big fan of this away kit anyway. The black with the green and the red
Africa
on it.
one, yeah.
That is actually a perfect way to. Do you know what it's like? I bought a Benfica kit last year, and they're quite similar, but it's like it's got a zebra print on it on this Arsenal one. But it sort of throws me back to when we faced you at Hybrid, or the Emirates rather, and there was we were wearing our grey and black kit. I think we got battered in this year as well. Like it was like either the 5-2 year or the year after that where we lost 5-1 or something, 5-0. And it just looked wrong. It just looked wrong. And there was no explanation back then from the Premier League of why we were wearing this grey and black kit. But yeah, it seems to have happened again. A lot of people calling it like woke nonsense, as they say on Twitter. But do you think, the description was your kit's got too much white on the panels and stuff. Do you just think that's a load of nonsense, or are you like, because we got to do apparently the same at your ground? We've got to wear our away kit at the Emirates.
I don't mind it, to be fair, because I read that Arteta prefers us in the black kit and this is Arteta being like that kind of madman, like like it's one of those moments. But he says that like the black kit brings the intimidation factor. Like a couple of seasons ago, we had that all black kit that was really nice. And he was like, oh, we want to play in that as much as possible because it brings the intimidation factor. So I don't think Arteta and the boys mind too much. But like I said, I think the kit's a bit of a shambles.
Realistically, like the players, the managers don't care.
No.
Saying it's got an intimidation factor is a massive stretch, because seeing Arsenal in their standard red is probably more intimidating, because that's the mighty Arsenal. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
it's the same as seeing like Liverpool in their red, Man United in their red. It's never quite as impressive as seeing them in an away kit. But yeah, I think it's probably to do like accessibility for it's more of a thing in the modern game now where people watching from all around the world, people with disabilities watching, it being more inclusive. If you can bring that sort of big divide between one team and the other, it does help everyone, I guess. Maybe it's not woke. Maybe it's just good for everyone. But yeah,
looks not woke.
Yeah, I don't know. Just red and blues. That's all we should have.
That's what I mean. Because I actually had to then look. I had to look up the Arsenal kit, and when I saw how much was on the paneling that was white, I was actually a bit shocked and like a bit more blue this year, because last year it was gold for the Invincible anniversary. But moving on then, my next question was about, and I did a video on this, about Martin Keown's comments, what he said on TalkSport. And if you haven't seen it, he basically said that the gap between Spurs and Arsenal isn't as big as everyone says it is. And my reply to that was that I feel like he's comparing, a lot of people seem to compare Arteta's Arsenal with Pochettino's Tottenham, because they were in title fights, they were competing near the top, but they didn't have too much to show for it. I mean, obviously Arteta won the FA Cup in his first couple of seasons, and then the idea that obviously Spurs haven't won a trophy in 20 odd years, and Arsenal haven't won the league in 20 odd years. So as the Arsenal fan, Ross, what do you make of these comments? Do you agree or do you? Because I'll be honest, I as a Tottenham fan can sit here and say that Arsenal are a bigger club than us. You've won more, not on the European stage, but when it comes to fan base and stuff like that, like more known globally, and it is the case. But there could be different avenues where you could argue for and against, I guess.
No, I totally agree about when you're talking about the parallels between this Arteta side and Poch's Spurs side from a few years back, because there definitely is parallels there, like title races, playing great football, having kind of like a squad that if they don't win anything could get picked apart, that kind of thing. And I think it is getting to that point in time now with the Arsenal fan base. The last 2 seasons have been so united behind Arteta and kind of seeing that progress, and everyone's been super behind it. But now we're at kind of like a crossroads where you're starting to see a little bit of kind of splitting of the fan base. Half kind of thinking a season with another title race, a deeper Champions League run, but nothing to show for it would be enough. And others saying that if that happens, we don't win anything at all, Arteta's got to go. So we're kind of in that situation now where I personally am not on this like make or break vibe for Arteta. I think, like I said, another title race, a deep Champions League run, a deep cup run, and nothing. I wouldn't be buzzing about it, but I wouldn't be like Arteta out. But I can see the argument that if we go again, deep in everything and don't win anything with the money we're spending, with the players that we've got, I can see why people wouldn't be happy with that, because we've got some world-class players that if we keep not winning stuff, people could come sniffing.
Yeah, I think the parallel between the Poch Spurs team and Arteta's Arsenal is valid, but Poch didn't have Man City and Pep Guardiola to be fighting with. That
Facts.
is the greatest like sequence of like team in recent history. Like they've always been there, hitting ridiculous numbers, going on ridiculous runs. The levels that Arsenal showed to even compete has been outstanding. Yeah, they've like the sort of Arteta sort of situation at the minute where some fans are saying, right, this is his last season to get something. It's fair enough, but like you're talking about in the Champions League, you've got now a super team in Real Madrid with like the biggest players in the world in there. You've also got to compete against the likes of Man City in the Champions League, who are one of the best teams England's seen, and then you've got to compete against them in the league. So realistically, maybe if you go and win an FA Cup, that's a good thing, I guess. But is that going to be enough? It's just the time and place at the minute. I don't think anyone's got the infrastructure to beat Man City. Arsenal, I think, will do it this year, but I don't think it'll be off the back of them being the best team in the league. I think Man City just won't live up to the levels. I think eventually it's got to peter off at some point. But yeah, it's interesting because going back to the point of Arsenal and Tottenham, where do they sit? I think Tottenham is sort of following in the footsteps of what Arsenal have done. Brand new, amazing stadium, sort of investing in good young players, developing them, looking to bring players through the academy, and then going with a manager who's not gonna immediately bring success. Arteta wasn't brought in immediately to bring success.
A bit of a project,
yeah. And I think I personally view it as all clubs are on trying to get on the pathway to reaching Pep Guardiola. So if you could bring managers in and then build an infrastructure around them, which like sort of
facilitates growth
or mirrors what's happened at Man City, because Man City were bringing in players who were going to suit Pep before he was even there, and they bring in players now who only suit Pep, and then so you're seeing that, and Spurs bringing in someone like Ange it's more of a step in the right direction towards that goal of enlightenment of being like a Pep Guardiola team. And that's what Arsenal have done with Arteta. They literally took his main man. So yeah, it's interesting. But I don't think this North London derby is going to be the one to tell us just quite how far apart the teams are or how close they are, because of all the factors going into it. But then again, when do you ever get the perfect North London derby? It's always
it don't exist. It don't exist. I argued that point as well in my video, that this whole idea of, and I always draw comparisons with Tottenham and Arsenal because they're your rivals. You're always going to compare. It's like comparing your neighbour's grass to your own. Sometimes you're just going to say, "Oh, that's a bit in line." Anyway. But I do think that the whole idea of going back to what Spurs fans wanted, and that was attacking football. That's sort of what Arteta brought since, like, obviously Emery didn't work. It didn't work for us under Jose and Conte and Nuno after Poch. So you're like following greatness, even though like Pochettino didn't have the same dynasty as Wenger. But then it's coming into a club, shifting deadwood, trusting a process in inverted commas. So there are comparisons there, I guess. But then my penultimate question then is, obviously we spoke about Arsenal's, injury crisis and all that. But on the flip side, Spurs go into this with hopefully Dominic Solanke returning, Mickey van der Ven returning as well. Quite a fully fit squad, touch wood, ahead of this one. So does this now swing the omens and put the energy on Spurs? Like, are they going in as favourites? And also, another key thing to highlight as well, and you might have noticed this, Ross, is this is the first North London derby where it's been the first game has been at Spurs. It's usually Arsenal always have this one, and then we have the one in the new year. So, with that as well, do you reckon it's the omens are on Spurs? Is it their time to impress?
I think it is, but I can't speak for Spurs fans, but would you rather go into the game as favourites? I feel like you're better suited going in as underdogs, kind of, maybe.
Yeah, always.
So I don't know if, like, obviously it helps, like we were talking about with the injuries and stuff, that you're going in as favourites and Arsenal aren't as like full strength. So that kind of plays into your hands a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The pressure might get to them. You haven't had the best start of the season as well. So I don't know. Maybe it will all be too much, and kind of Arsenal going in as underdogs. Maybe we'll start a couple of new players or kind of rotate the team a little bit, like Sterling might start. I feel like, yeah, maybe the Spurs will be like the favourites, but maybe the underdog vibe will suit Arsenal and it swing that way, maybe.
I don't think for 1 minute that Spurs will go into this game as the favourites, even with Arsenal missing big hitters. But I believe the impetus is there for Spurs to go and do something here. If Spurs lose 1-0, 2-0, I think you'd be very disappointed. Very disappointed, because this is, I think if you come out with a draw, you say, right, I'm probably happy with that. That's a big game out of the way now. We can build on that. But I think you will be disappointed if you don't get anything from this game. It's very rare you're going to face Arsenal where you've got their captain missing and one of their star midfielders missing. It's going to be, it'll be a myth if you go and if they come to your ground.
Spurs need to get 3 points, especially, like I said, not a great start to the season. If they come out of this game with a loss, 4 points from your opening 4 games? It's not great.
Yeah, it's a win-loss draw. And the thing is with Spurs is in all 3 of the games, we've had moments where like we've looked really good in all 3.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Leicester battered them in the first half, should have won, 2, 3,
should be
4.
about 4-5 up, yeah.
Everton, we battered them, but we were a bit in second gear and they're woeful. Yep. And then against Newcastle, battered them for the first time in ages, and then they got the other end and poke it in after Isak's had a quiet game. So it's just it's the Spurs way, and like we're going to play with this high line. We're going to play.
I'll take one of those, to be fair. I'll take if you batter us and we kind of scrape a 2-1 win somehow. I'll take it.
But anyway,
when it comes.
Oh god. Anyway, to wrap it up though, I want to get both your predictions because it's good to get a Spurs fans prediction, a QPR fans prediction, and a Arsenal fans prediction ahead of this one. Actually, what's quite interesting as well, before I get the score predictions and how you think the game's going to go, we did play QPR in pre-season, and Basuma scored, and we looked quite good. So you firsthand have seen how we play. What did you make of that?
Just Ange Ball is so weird to watch because when it comes off, it looks like the most impressive football in the world. And it's you have spells in games where you look so dominant, really. And within a period of 10 minutes, you could have had 4 or 5. And then sometimes it drifts off. And then it's just always that threat of just someone just bypassing your entire midfield or whipping a ball in because your wing backs don't get out quick enough or one of your defensive midfielders don't get out quick enough. And then you just concede just a really poor goal. So, but yeah, I mean, against us, we're very much still in the sort of territory of wondering how Marty's going to get on. But our squad is so so much worse than your squad. Like you like Mikey Moore, like your academy players would walk into our team. But I thought we were all right. But I was sort of was expecting. We've got Palace in the cup next week, which would be interesting. Apparently, if we win that, we get Eze back. So we'll be hoping for a dub there.
Custody of Eze.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I kicked the wire out. Forgot where we were.
So Luke was just rambling on about QPR, to be fair.
No. Thing off now. Oh, fucking Zoom. Switch the bloody thingy to what's it called? To the coming through the microphone, because that's a thing. But go on, speak now.
Hello.
Hello.
I still can't hear you. What the fuck is going on? Sorry.
I think it was right at the end, to be fair.
That's why. Right, can you hear me now? I think I can hear you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sorry about this. Bloody hell.
That's
I usually do this in one take, but yeah. So let's get your predictions then. Score and how you see it going. We'll start with you, Luke, as you're the neutral.
I think it's going to be messy. I think there's going to be errors. Both teams like to be on the front foot, like to score goals. I'm going 2-2.
Go on then, Ross, as the Arsenal fan.
I was gonna say 2-2, but I won't copy him. But I do agree with the fact that it will be messy. Like our entire midfield is pretty much going to be a whole new threesome together. So if that doesn't scream mistakes and all sorts of drama, I don't know what will. So I think we concede, but going forward, I think we're one of the most exciting teams in the league. So I think we'll score. I think there's goals in it. I'm going. I'll go 3-2 Arsenal. Why not?
Oh, well, me and Luke are going to be sitting on that fence and getting splinters because I'm going to say 1-1. I just feel like it's going to be. I can imagine Arsenal being a little bit cagey. I can imagine turning up and thinking, like, pick their battles. Like, we'll sit back a little bit and just sort of counter and, like, try and pick Spurs off when we're going, like, bolting all the way up and we're a bit knackered, especially towards the end. So I think 1-1 might be quite spot on for that because, as I say, it gives me nerves. It gives me nerves, this fixture.
It will be a nervy one.
It's not, I'm not looking forward. I never look forward. I look forward to it in the lead up, but on the morning, it's like butterflies in the tummy, feeling sick, all that sort of stuff. And then when it's over, it always gives me flashbacks of going to school on the Monday and just getting heckled and bullied by the Arsenal fans for getting trounced 5-2 and all that. But anyway, I'd like to say a massive thank you guys for jumping on my channel.
Thank you for
really
having
good
us.
discussion as always. And also you can head over to the Board Draw channel and see we're doing a little preview ahead of the North London derby where I'm probably going to get more bullied on there and heckled. But yeah, check the guys' channel out. Let me know, as I said in the comments down below, if you want to see any other creators previewing games ahead of fixtures in the Premier League. Like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, become a member in the link in the description down below. And until next time, which will be a reaction to that North London derby, I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.